Japan watching impact of rate rises by the West on its economy. Tokyo, February 22, Reuters. Japan will watch how rising interest rates in Western nations could affect its economy, the finance minister said on Tuesday, as higher bond yields would boost borrowing costs for the industrial world's heaviest public debt burden. Shunichi Suzuki made the remark as the parliament's powerful lower house is set to approve the fiscal 2022-23 budget with a record $940 billion in spending on Tuesday, setting the stage for the budget's full passage through the legislature in March. NL1N2 UW073. As interest rates rise, interest payments will rise as well, straining Japan's budget, Suzuki told reporters after a cabinet meeting. If trust in our fiscal management is called into question, we cannot rule out a possibility that it could have a big impact on policy implementation and people's livelihoods. Japanese government bond, JGB, yields were recently at multi-year highs, partly driven by bets that the Bank of Japan, BOJ, may have to scale back monetary stimulus in response to the tightening campaigns of global central banks. The yields have since retreated somewhat as Ukraine tensions send investors seeking safe haven assets. The BOJ stepped into the market this month by offering unlimited bond purchases at a fixed rate to stem a rise in the key 10-year JGB yield toward its implicit 0.25% tolerance ceiling under its yield curve control policy. Suzuki also said Japan will coordinate with the group of 7 advanced economies in dealing with the Ukraine situation while carefully watching how it could affect its economy. Biden to prohibit trade, investment with Ukraine breakaway regions, White House. Washington, February 21, Reuters. President Joe Biden will issue an executive order soon that will prohibit economic activity between U.S. individuals and the 2 breakaway regions of eastern Ukraine that Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized as independent entities on Monday, the White House said. Putin's recognition of the rebel-held areas could pave the way for Moscow to send military forces into the 2 regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, and argue that it is intervening as an ally to protect them against Ukraine. We have anticipated a move like this from Russia and are ready to respond immediately, White House spokesperson Jen Psaki said in a statement. President Biden will soon issue an executive order that will prohibit new investment, trade, and financing by U.S. persons to, from, or in the so-called DNR and LNR regions of Ukraine. The order will also provide authority to impose sanctions on any person determined to operate in those areas of Ukraine, Psaki said. Psaki said more measures were forthcoming and said these were separate from sanctions that the United States and its allies have been preparing if Russia invades Ukraine. To be clear, these measures are separate from and would be in addition to the swift and severe economic measures we have been preparing in coordination with allies and partners should Russia further invade Ukraine, she said. Biden, who convened a meeting with his national security team at the White House earlier in the day, held a 35-minute call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and had a call with French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. We are continuing to closely consult with allies and partners, including Ukraine, on next steps and on Russia's ongoing escalation along the border with Ukraine, Psaki said. Baltic's call for swift EU sanctions on Russia after it recognizes Ukrainian breakaway republics. Vilnius, February 21, Reuters. The European Union must impose sanctions on Russia immediately after it recognized 2 Ukrainian breakaway regions as independent, the governments of the Baltic states of Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania said after Russia's announcement. Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized the Donetsk and Luhansk regions in eastern Ukraine as independent entities on Monday, upping the ante in a crisis the West fears could unleash a major war. The 3 Baltic states, unlike Ukraine, are all members of NATO and the European Union. The EU must impose sanctions immediately, Latvian Foreign Minister Edgars Rinkēvičs wrote on Twitter. I remain convinced such a course of escalation should be met with sanctions, his Lithuanian counterpart Gabrielius Landsbergis wrote in a tweet. In a joint statement, Rinkēvičs and Latvia's President and Prime Minister called on the international community to take the strongest possible measures to stop Russia's aggression and offer assistance to Ukraine. Separately, Estonia's president called on the European Union to impose sanctions for what he called the gross and unjustifiable trampling on international law. Lithuania's Speaker of Parliament will table a parliamentary motion to never recognize any change of status of the breakaway region, she said on Monday. Recognition of Donetsk and Luhansk separatist republics by Russia is an intolerable violation of international law. It also means unilateral withdrawal from Minsk agreements, said Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda, referring to the Donbass ceasefire documents. The Baltic states said on January 21 they will provide Ukraine with U.S. made anti-armor and anti-aircraft missiles, days after receiving clearance from the U.S. State Department to send U.S. made missiles and other weapons there. The foreign ministers of the three Baltic countries plan to visit Ukraine together later this week in a show of solidarity. Thank you for watching our videos.